Welcome to PopTernative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hi, and welcome to PopTernative podcast here on Blab. I am your host, Peter Remoliotis. On Twitter, I go as PD Beats. This is the podcast where we discuss issues from the worlds of social media, sports, and pop culture. And tonight we have three amazing guests. I'm so excited about tonight's show. We have the Director of Digital Media for the LA Kings, Pat Donahue.
Greetings.
We have...
I made it.
Yeah. We have three-time gold medalist in the Olympic Games for Canada in speed skating, Charles Hamelin.
Yo.
And we have Dave Brien, who does content services for Hockey Canada.
Greetings.
So thank you guys for coming on my podcast this evening. I really, really appreciate it.
Welcome, man.
Happy to be here.
Thanks for having us.
So what we do on PopTernative, we kind of do a roundtable, introduction. So why don't we start with Pat and then go around and Pat, just give us a little bit of a description, some info, a little bio.
Sure. I'm the Director of Digital Media and Production for the Kings, so we manage all content. So whether it's online, social, mobile, video, websites, blogs, all that kind of stuff. Two-time Stanley Cup champion. That's about it.
Pretty good.
Yeah. I just need one more.
Says the gold medalist.
I got two rings. So I'm almost there.
Charles, what about you?
Went to three Olympics, Torino, Vancouver, Sochi. I have 3 gold medals, 2 in Vancouver, 1 in Sochi, 1 silver in Torino. Other than that, I have more than 150 medals around the international competition. And I'm still stoked to skate and hoping to make the next Olympics in 18 in South Korea, Pyeongchang. So that's about me.
I watched you win that one in Vancouver. It was
Nice.
It was very cool. It was a great event.
Thanks.
Dave, what about you?
Yeah, well, content services for Hockey Canada, as you can see with the jerseys in the back. So basically what that is just fueling the website with different features. I cover different events, so from U17s, U18s, World Juniors, also covered the Olympics in Sochi, so different aspects, but mostly a little bit like journalism.
Perfect. So for tonight's topic, it's mega scale events, the big events, when you think of, Super Bowl, Stanley Cup, Olympics, WrestleMania is another one. you think of these events that are watched by millions over the globally, and you think of, with the advent of social media, you think of all these people, interacting and creating digital dialogues with each other, and people like Dave and Pat were creating this digital content. And then, of course, we have, the stars of these, big spectacles, these big mega scale events, the athletes like Charles. I thought it would be a really cool, opening discussion to talk about, to get perspectives from both spectrums of it, the actual creating and kind of managing, the content on a big scale. Does the formula change when you're dealing with a way bigger event? When you have a formula of how you're tweeting a game, Pat, is there some parts of the formula that get altered with, it being a bigger game, the stakes being high? Same thing with Dave and international. And, to get Charles's perspective of him being, the athlete day after a big Olympic day, checking out all, his feeds, you know what I mean? I thought that'd be interesting. So Pat, why don't you start us with that? What do you think about this whole concept of the content in a mega scale environment?
Well, I work for a hockey team in Los Angeles, so we never have mega scale environments. When you're talking about like the Super Bowl, I mean, that's a totally different ball game.
Stanley Cup Finals. I mean, you're talking as well.
It may be for us because we're fans, but in terms of, I've met with the Seahawks and the Broncos and some of these Super Bowl teams, and I think the Seahawks hired a team of like 45 people to manage their social accounts during that day. We never got, I've been in 10 Stanley Cup final games, and it was just me and my designer. So it's a different, that's a very different world of like, I have a friend that does social for The Voice. And so that, that scale is on a whole nother level. For us, we kind of, have the same approach, whether it's a preseason game or whether it's a Stanley Cup final. Like, we've really gotten away from play-by-play on social just because I find it unnecessary. We have so many media and so many bloggers and so many fans that are tweeting, hey, there was a penalty at 2 minutes left. Like, no, I don't really want that from the teams that I follow anymore. There's obviously a little bit more of an emphasis if some of our games aren't on TV, which is mainly preseason, and then national versus Fox Sports. Like, we're on Fox Sports, 40,000 people watch our games in Los Angeles, and that's really it. But in terms of social, it's, we just try to find those moments that people want to see and see again, which is usually the funny stuff, the stuff that shows personality of the players and, telling that story. Our approach really doesn't differ that much other than, there's more eyeballs on us when we're in the finals. The league takes more of a notice to what we're doing, and we almost need to be a little bit more careful, would be the word I would use, just because there's a lot more people waiting for you to fail when you're playing against them. But yeah, I mean, the internet is 24/7 global all the time. So we have fans all around the world, just like every other team. So you kind of have to provide content to them all the time.
Dave, what about you, being kind of on like from the perspective of international hockey representing a country? What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, it's actually funny because I was listening to Pat talk, and we're pretty much on the total flip side. So basically, when we do have events, I mean, we just do a lot of play-by-play to accommodate those international fans, and obviously not everyone have access to those games. I mean, if it's on TSN, fine, but I mean, like the Stanley Cup finals get so much exposure that those international games, especially like the World Championships, and sometimes it's overseas, so if the game's at 4 a.m. or everything, we do a lot more play-by-play than just the regular posts, but we always do like end of period summaries and everything. And in terms of content other than related to the games, I mean, we always try to plug in some stories on players that are on that team or who have played together before. Everything that's related to that event. I mean, whether, like I was saying earlier, whether it's U17 championships, U18s, World Juniors, or everything. I mean, Peter, you've worked with me at the World Juniors before. I mean, you know how it goes. I mean, we had player features go up on a daily basis, and then during the games, we do a lot of posting from the play-by-play, what's going on. We always have basically the links to our webpage, basically, so you can have access to the game details and everything. Stuff that doesn't necessarily go into tweets itself, but I mean, like, there's not only Twitter, obviously, these days, there's a little bit of everything. So Instagram, we use it to post pictures, whether it's just a score at the end. Facebook, you obviously have albums that you can throw up there with different pictures from the games. I mean, there's a lot more room to fill in there too. So a little bit different approach, but I mean, pretty much all comes to the same. Like Pat was saying, basically, it's the internet's 24/7, so people can log in, track down what you've written before, whether they're watching the game live or they've missed it. So we try to keep all our fans updated the best we can.
Charles, what about you being an athlete, being on, the complete other, like actually like doing stuff, you know what I mean? Competing, being in Sochi, maybe probably not right away. You're, going to tweet some stuff out, maybe like a couple of days after, you know what I mean? How are you as an athlete, managing your social media or, content, while you're competing in these big events?
For me, I think one funny thing and one thing I kind of saw the evolution during the Olympics of the social media, because in Torino there was nothing, like basically nothing. So we were just like on the internet and just saying like to my family by emails, like I'm doing that and it's cool. And in Vancouver, like it was the start of like Facebook and Twitter, and in Sochi it was completely like an explosion of like, you can have everything and you can say and you can post anything you want and people can have access that quick. And I think I kind of wanted to capitalize during Sochi Olympics to kind of give the fans and people like what I'm doing in the Olympic Village, because they don't they don't have to see that. Like they don't have access. And so I was kind of posting pictures about not only me like training or winning medals, but like just my daily basis. Like I had some blood tests, and I was just showing them like how many blood tests I had during the Olympics. I think I had like maybe 5 or 6 during the games, and those are things that people don't know, and I just find it like fun for them to know that. And like the room where the athletes are in the Olympic Village, the cafeteria, like what's happening like inside the Olympic bubble, like we like to call it. And for me, just during the events, I will never tweet, because there's like a rule into our sport that says like we can't tweet during our Facebook or whatever during events, so we can focus on what we have to do, and it's kind of it's normal, and I think it's good for us. But after, for sure, I'm gonna tweet something. I'm gonna say something to people, just to let them know that like what was my feeling, and I'm gonna post a picture. I'm gonna reply to people who post something on the feed, and make sure I'm active so people can see me and can enjoy like they saw me on TV. They see what I did, and I want to give them like what was my feeling and what's more inside and what's more like fun for them to watch.
You just gave a fantastic historical review of how social media has morphed into the way we report and talk about sports with fans. That was amazing.
Yeah, what could...
All right, we're done.
Really good. Yeah.
Let's cut it here.
The bar is like up here.
But if I can ask, basically, I just remember, Charles, you were talking about how social media blew up in Sochi. I mean, I just remember every day I would open up, and then you had these videos of people filming wolves in the hotels and the bathrooms that didn't have doors and all this crazy stuff that was happening. So that was fun to see athletes posting stuff that wasn't really related to what you could see on TV.
That was Jimmy Kimmel, wasn't that?
I don't know where it was
the Wolves video was actually a Jimmy Kimmel prank.
I don't remember who it was. There were some athletes that got stuck in an elevator or something.
Yeah, no, I know for that. But the wolf in the dorm rooms, that was like the Jimmy Kimmel prank. Yeah, it was Jimmy Kimmel.
Fooled
prank.
Me.
It fooled a lot of people. He did the same thing. Yeah,
like the best example is like those things. If it would have happened like in Torino, nobody would knew it, because there was no access of those things. But now with the social media, like you have an inside view of what's happening inside. So I think it's something that the fans wants to have.
That was 2006, right? So you're going 4 years to Vancouver, and just in 4 years. But you mentioned, Charles, like behind the scenes, and I think we go back to Pat here. The LA Kings and their social media are really known for being, trailblazers. That's what it says in a lot of literature, Pat. You guys are, really good at being, edgy, creative. I would know because I wrote my master's research essay on you guys.
Yeah, you know more than I do at this point.
And I just want to say very quickly, it's an honor to have you on the show, because even before I started writing and thought about what I was going to do for my master's, you were always and I knew that was like Pat Donahue, was doing it. Your content is fantastic, and it really gets people going, and it's really cool to see that an approach like this being so that's not necessarily an authentic approach being very popular, right, Pat? Like it became popular. And it's a new approach. It's a fresh, different, unique approach.
Yeah, I mean, you use the word not authentic. I think it would be incredibly authentic in terms of like we are the ones that
traditional. Okay, I didn't use the right word, like traditional.
Traditional, sure, but
yeah, that's what I meant. Like
usually to like the traditionalist is like, okay, but why was that traditional? Like no one ever decided, hey, this is the best way to tweet from a sports team. And then you have to look at every team differently. Like hockey is very different than the NFL and the NBA. And we are very different in Los Angeles and competing with the Clippers and the Lakers and the Dodgers and two college football teams and another hockey team down the road. There's just a lot of stuff. But I mean, speaking of Trailblazers, my old boss, Dwayne, who works with the Trailblazers now, he's the one that sort of gave us the keys to do this and convinced management that, like, okay, let's have fun. And then he and I were kind of the ones that just took it to new extremes. And it helped that we won. I mean, if we wouldn't have won that first championship, people would, and as the 8th seed beating all those teams, people really were like, oh, these people are crazy, like, for the stuff that they're saying because it's so different. But I think people appreciated it because at that point, 3-4 years ago, teams were literally just box scores. And I think a few pro teams still had like RSS feeds, and that was their Twitter account, or their Twitter was linked to their Facebook. And so everything was just that FB link that no one ever clicks on. So I think we just saw it work, and it was cool and fun. And, like Charles was saying, people want to see behind the scenes and access to the athletes and the talent. Well, we don't have that. I don't talk to our players very often. The players go play hockey and we cover them. Like, I have just as much access as like the traditional media a lot of the time. Our video team has been able to kind of go behind the scenes a little bit more, but we're still sort of looked at like outsiders, which I think is in the fabric of hockey and the separation between hockey and business. So I couldn't get the personality from our players, so we just had to kind of create our own. And it was just a perfect storm of, beating the Canucks as an 8th seed and then winning again in 2014. And things are very different now. Like, the PC police are everywhere, and there are a lot more people watching us to fail. So I think we're more careful than we used to be, just because we've seen so many people crash and burn. We're lucky that, we've made some mistakes, absolutely, but nothing that shattered the world.
Yeah. I mean, it's really interesting too, because, LA is not a traditional ice hockey market, but, you're on a podcast right now with 3 guys that are from Montreal.
Absolutely.
And, and the reason why I said mega scale with Stanley Cup is, having the Montreal Canadiens in the Eastern Finals and 2 years ago, and having them, going pretty far with Carey Price last year, it becomes huge, right, guys? You could back me up on this, right?
Yeah, it was for Montreal. It's like it was the biggest thing every year. Like when they do playoff, it's like all over the social media, all over like the journal, everywhere, and it's the big thing. Like everyone's following hockey. There's other like sports, but basically hockey is over the top for us here.
Yeah, because in Canada, you're number 1. In the U.S., we're number 4. So Exactly. It's a very different, our games, I think the first round of the playoffs aren't even on national TV. So we're playing playoff games to a local broadcast. That's a very different kind of execution than and even NBC Sports is what got, like, if we're on NBC Sports, it's like, wow, that's a national broadcast, but that's way different than being on TSN and Hockey Night in Canada and this, much bigger kind of broadcast.
Yeah. So I went to New York City this summer, and it was during the Eastern Finals, when New York was playing Tampa Bay. I could not find the game at any bar, like where I was. Like you look at New York Rangers and New York, that is a bigger hockey market than Los Angeles and California. So I think you're right about that too. It's interesting when you talk about Canada being, that's our thing, being 1 and USA being 4. It just, blows my mind that, because there are, I know a lot of, people from the States that love hockey, and it's big in the Minnesota area. And it's, and even in the New York area. So that blew my mind when I went to New York. You couldn't really find, and I couldn't find it on TV. I had to stream the game.
Yeah, that's pretty surprising. I mean, those games probably would have been on like NBC Sports Network, which is still cable. Yeah. I mean, that's not free to air TV, which is it's shocking as hockey fans to like think about that. But that's just when you look at the percentages of people in America watching sports, it's still just dominated by the NFL times a million.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, for sure. But Dave, what do you also think of that too? This idea that when we getting back to what we're talking about, the behind the scenes, hockey, like when Pat was saying, him not having access to players as much, you're doing more web stuff than rather social media. So you're writing features. You're having an exchange with players because you're writing features on them, right?
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, it's also different in our case because basically if it's a national team, it's not like we have those guys year round, right? So if they do make the roster, you only have them for a short period. So those guys like to collaborate in that short frame if you want, versus I see where Pat's coming from, basically from NHL players who have those journalists and those media around them for 82 games during a year. So it's much different than just an international competition. But on the other end, I mean, like you guys were saying, I mean, we know in hockey in Canada is very important and all that. So basically, it's not like we need to go out and have these color tweets and these color posts and everything and being original, because basically we still have that fan base no matter what we'll be posting. Versus I get where Pat's coming from, like I was saying, in California, you need to be original. You need to have that creative content to attract people to your accounts and to have them really get into hockey, So it's a different approach. It's very different, but I mean, I can't say that, like, even ourselves, like when we have the junior teams or the Olympics or the World Championships, I mean, we don't have necessarily players tweeting out stuff, or, we have access to them if I'm writing a feature, say, I'll have a set-up interview with that player itself. I mean, other than that, it's not like we tweet at players and they respond, or we don't have those interactions either.
Yeah, or like, we had, I forget the number, but I think we had 5 teams at 5 players at Sochi, and there wasn't one tweet or Instagram posted from all 5 players over the entire tournament. Like we had the goalie of the U.S. national team didn't post one thing, and it's just
I don't think he was quick enough though.
Yeah, he didn't have the fingers, but it's just different. Like they just don't really care. Like they don't want to be celebrities. They just want to play hockey, and so it's admirable that they want to do that. But for our jobs, sometimes it's just like, could you guys just tweet something to each other, or like, help us out a little bit. And, I get it. Their job is literally just to play hockey. And that comes from the top of our organization down to the bottom.
Even just retweets sometimes. They don't even want to retweet a feature that's on them, right? So like they don't want to be that celebrity there. They just want to play the game. Like social media is not.
But do you think it's also because I know a lot of players, especially in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League that I'm in contact with, say they're on Twitter all the time. They won't tweet, but they're going to be checking out like their timelines all the time. I know a lot of people that don't even have a lot of players don't actually have an actual account. They have a private account that they just use it to get their news. Do you think there's and this has been brought up in many episodes in the past. Do you think there's a fear from the athletes that they don't, want to, mess up or tweet something that might not seem that bad, but might be twisted and turned in the wrong context? Do you think that's that, or do you
ask the athlete down there?
With the Red Bull toucan.
The difference in between like Olympic athletes like us and hockey players like playing in the NHL right now is that we want to give fans like more content because they never see us on TV. They almost never, like maybe one competition a year on national TV, like 2 hours during one day. So we want to give them more like insight of what we're doing during the year, and when we are at the Olympics, we want to give them like what's going on instead of the hockey player. Like for us in Canada, like everyone knows almost every player in the NHL, like for a hockey fan, and like someone who plays hockey is more known than any like Olympic athletes in Canada. So they don't need to feed their Twitter account or Facebook account with stuff because they already known and people see them on TV like almost every 2 or 3 days. So they know what they do and they know what what they are doing, and they have like the journalists, like they write article and they tweet about them like 24/7 almost. So it's already done for them. In comparison of us, it's like when we have a good competition like a World Cup, like one time every month, like we get followed, we get some tweet, we get some stuff from media. But other than that, we need to do this stuff to give something to the fans. And I think that's the big difference for us. But I think also it's a mentality. Like most of the hockey players right now are kind of like, I am 31 years old, and I consider myself like an old athlete in short track. And when you're 31 years old or older, like in hockey, I think you're more like you're not used to use social media. If you take like people that are in the junior right now, like they have more access, they know more about like what's going on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. Like you can see more young hockey player, NHL or junior, using them and post stuff. But sometimes teams don't like that because they use it maybe the wrong way, or they post something stupid or like something that they shouldn't be on internet, and they got a slap from the team. And I think it's just something that maybe they're scared to post something it's wrong, and they get something from the team, I guess.
Yeah, and that's something. But I think you're also this guy, like with you, Charles. Basically, it the social media buzz for you comes in cycles, right? You know, a lot of and that's different with the LA Kings, right, Pat? Because they're playing hockey every year, and they're but Pat, getting back to what you were saying about the LA Kings and it being not as popular, like hockey as popular, and having the Lakers. Don't you think that maybe the players would maybe want, like, because you like social media is a tool for promotion, and it being you in California, Hollywood and everything. Anze Kopitar and Dustin Pennant, when you guys won the cup the first time, did a TSN video, the Stanley Cup hangover. Do you remember that?
Yep.
You ever see that?
Yeah.
Don't you think the players, it would be, you don't think the players see like an opportunity to kind of promote themselves and promote the game being in, LA, and kind of leveraging maybe, celebrities that come to your games, you know what I mean? Like maybe Anze Kopitar snapping a selfie with Eric Stonestreet, you know what I mean? I'm just thinking,
Yeah, I think it goes back to what you said, is they're just afraid, and they don't see the plus. They don't see the plus side. They just see people getting in trouble, and they see these kids and juniors that every player that's drafted. There are hundreds of people that comb their Twitter feeds and it's like, oh, what did this kid say 4 years ago? I mean, luckily, like we found funny stuff when we drafted Adrian Kempe, like all these funny vines of when he was like 15 years old. So like, that's a terrifying thing to be like, wow, I could make a joke to a friend of mine now, and in 4 years, someone could call me out on that. And like Charles was saying, a lot of them are older, but all of them have it. I mean, all of them have Twitter accounts and they have Snapchat, but they just consume, they don't publish. Yeah. And I think they're worried about it. But it's also just not in our culture as a team. Everything's very team-based. Anyone that is separate from the team usually doesn't last very long. Like you could look at the Penner, Scrivens, Westgarth, some of these guys that were great on social and were very personable and talked to fans. Well, they're all gone for whatever reason. And it's this very secluded, this is how our team is going to operate, and don't operate outside of that. And, they just don't see the value, and the risk is not worth the reward, in their opinion. It's just too many things can go wrong. I think what they would think.
When a player is playing for the Kings and doing something bad on internet or social media, it affects the team. It affects the name, like the LA Kings. Absolutely. Instead of like me, if I post something wrong, it affects me. Like people gonna say that is doing something stupid on the internet. But if like Enze Kopitar posts something wrong on Twitter, like it's gonna of course it's gonna affect him, but it's gonna affect the team also, and the team will get something like from that. And I think it's why they're scared of posting something on internet.
And we haven't exactly had the best 12 months of PR anyways, so it's better to be safe than sorry. I think in their world.
Hashtag
Exactly.
Mike Richards.
I don't think we're going to open up.
No comment.
Of course, Dave, come on. Dave.
Just hashtag.
Really?
But it's funny too, because I'm listening to both of you talk, and I mean, we live a little bit of both worlds, if you want, because I mean, obviously when we have the men's teams, I mean, they're the ones who don't want to make those mistakes. They don't want to affect their teams and everything. But on the flip side, a little bit like Charles, we got a lot of the women's teams and the women players that are active on social because they want to promote their game and they want to make it as big as the men's side of things. And I mean, a little bit like the Olympic athletes, I mean, the women tend to think that people focus on their games only every 4 years and then we forget about them in between. So, I mean, we got a lot of girls these days that are on Twitter and they're active, and they're trying to promote the game and everything versus on the flip side, when you get the men's national teams, I mean, they have no promotion to do at all. So I'm just listening to both of you talking. I mean, I live both worlds.
And there are now, what I find interesting is, like Charles, the women, like the national women's hockey team for Canada, US, they also had cycles too, but now like where they had social media, because they have the world championships and they have the Olympics, but now they have their own leagues, right? There's the NWHL starting up, and there's also the CWHL. So that I think is going to be able to give the women's hockey the exposure that I most certainly think it deserves. Like some of the best games I remember watching have been women's hockey games, Canada, USA. Women's hockey is, in my opinion, one of the best rivalries. But Dave, getting back to what you said, we did work World Juniors together in Montreal. And getting back to what Pat said about Adrian Kempe and the young players, you've dealt with a lot of junior players in a lot of these tournaments, TELUS Cup as well. Has it become something that is there, like when these kids come to the tournaments, are there policies that they have to abide by that from from TELUS Cup or from the actual whole league, or like by team? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, well, we do have some policies for our national teams. I mean, the younger they are, the stricter we get. So obviously, like under 17s, sometimes we just literally take away the cell phones and have access to them for only 1 or 2 hours a day. So obviously, we don't have that many tweets coming from their own accounts. Usually what happens is that, let's say, some kid gets a great game or, he's named player of the game, but basically we'll get a retweet from his account who'll retweet the Hockey Canada post itself. But it's pretty rare to see those guys, post the things themselves. And we also have some strict policies for what's going on in the room. So other than you just say that the World Juniors, when they won, you got some guys snapping pictures in the room. But before that, there was nothing shown. I mean, even TSN were refused access to those rooms and all that. So we keep it pretty strict in terms of policies. We don't want guys basically on their phones all day and then, finding out that, because I mean, we had some issues where, let's say, someone put out some news during the TELUS Cup that the current coach from that midget team had been hired in the queue. And I mean, obviously it just killed that team because that team was in the semifinals and they know that it's the last game probably they're playing for that coach and everything. So from that point on, we had some strict policies. I mean, kids can't access their phones. I mean, we take them away literally. They only have them for certain amounts of periods a day for them to call their families or anything that's important through your phone. But other than that, I mean, we don't want them on their phone the whole time.
Yeah. Charles, are there any specific policies for Olympic athletes with social media?
Yeah, like I said earlier, like they're not gonna take off our phones like younger people, but in hockey. But we have a rule that says like when we are in competition, even if it's a Canadian selection or World Cup or World Championships, Olympics, like during the event, like we can have access to our cell phone. Like if you want to listen to music, you can, but you cannot tweet or post anything on the internet about the competition, because sometimes when you want to give something to fans, like it's fun, but sometimes you're gonna receive good or bad replies, like, and reading that sometimes will play in your mind and just get you frustrated for nothing, and you want to stay focused on your game and you want to focus on what's important. Like, so if you watch at it like during the competition, like in between the quarterfinal and the semifinal, it can just get into your mind and get you to do a mistake during a race, and it just can be brutal for you. So that's why, like, we can't use our phone during competition, but after you can do whatever you want.
Yeah. So let's talk too now about, you know, really big moments in these big events that we're talking about. Now, Pat, I have to ask you this question. How does it feel to be behind arguably one of the most famous hockey tweets like that's ever been tweeted out?
You mean the one I got death threats over? Is that what you're referring?
I'm referring to the "You're Welcome" tweet.
Look back at that, and that is just not a big deal. Like, sure, it's cocky or whatever, but we were the 8th seed. We had never won anything. The Canucks had come off that loss to Boston the year before in the finals, rioted the city, and blah blah blah. I don't know. I would still do it again, and I still think it's funny.
Death threats?
Oh, I had a ton of death threats. Yeah, absolutely.
Really?
To the account, and then to my personal account once they found out who I was. The funniest one that I ever got was this guy. I can't remember if it was me or to the King, said, like, how about I come down to LA and you tweet that to my face? And I was just, man, I don't even know what that means, but you're more than welcome to come to Los Angeles and watch us play Game 3. And then, like, these people, I don't know. It's great. It's funny. It seems like it was so long ago now. In 2014, like, we played three Game 7s, and then New York went to Game 5. Like, so much happened in that, and it was so dramatic that that's a little bit more fresh in my mind. But hey, it's great. But I've been back to Vancouver many times, and luckily people don't really know who I am.
It's something too that's really interesting about the approach that you guys took with your social media, is leveraging pop culture, and that was a big part of my master's research essay on you guys. The ability to kind of plug in quotes from movies, and like, for example, you did a tweet. It's probably one of my favorite ones, and it's in the Sports Illustrated article that I wrote about second screen consumption, and it's a part of what I did about you guys. When the Rangers scored a goal and you put like the gangs in New York, and it's a bad guy score.
Oh yeah,
like that was like
that guy score was a really fun
that's a good gag. One. You know what I mean?
It's so easy. Like, my life is consumed. I mean, I watch more TV and movies than anyone that I know, and so
yeah. And
pop culture references are just part of what we do. I think it's gonna get really. I think we've reached like peak reaction GIFs, because every team now has access to Giphy.com and sort of could just Google in general, and they're all using the same GIFs. Like, if you look across the NHL, all of these teams are using the same. I'm really excited or funny or scared. Like, it's just the same stuff. So that's why we've started pulling a lot more stuff from the broadcast, and just stuff that is hockey, a little bit more hockey related. But the pop culture stuff, like, it just kills every time. It's just like, this is the funniest thing in the world, but all I did was Google like funny GIF, and like that's what shows up.
But Dave and I, we love referring to like the Mighty Ducks movies in our tweets once in a while.
Absolutely, I do it all the time.
Yeah. And there's a fake Goldberg account, Goldberg Goalie, which is, I don't know if you see that. It's hilarious. Like, it's so funny, and it's just like, like they did a tweet recently where McDavid scored his first goal, and it's like, you say McDavid, it's like I say McDonald's. Because, you know, we're referring to like the whole like, hey Goldberg, I bet if that puck was a cheeseburger, you'd stop it. You know what I mean? So it's like that type of stuff. I can't take it. Like, it's so good. And
what is really funny is now that, you know, I'm 30, so like my references are almost getting old. Like we make us and like John Rosen, who's LA Kings insider, and the Royal Half is a blog we all work with. Like The Simpsons is all of our favorite shows. So we make a lot of Simpsons jokes, and we find so many fans don't get them now. And it's sad that we're old now and we're making references to TV shows that are 20 years old, but still fun. But yeah, because it's that instant connection. It's like, yes, you know, I love the Mighty Ducks. Like I grew up watching this, and now you're applying it to something I'm excited about. And it's funny. It has like a, you know, piece of humor, and it's a relatability that, you know, someone who's not a Kings fan but likes that joke will also, you know, at least relate to it if they don't like the team.
Mm-hmm.
And Dave, you were like I said, like that's kind of like our wheelhouse, you know, when we talk about stuff, you know, it just goes back to that type of stuff, Mighty Ducks, you know, different movies.
Well, we live in like, you know, nostalgia culture. Like, you know, Netflix is bringing back Full House, and you know you can watch. There's a sequel to Boy Meets World, and like all these things from our childhood are all back. And with the internet, is like I could literally watch anything. Like if I want to go watch an old episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark from my childhood, like it's on the internet and I can watch it. So it's that nostalgia. You know,
Are You Afraid of the Dark? That's a good one.
Number one movie of the year is Jurassic Park. Like you look at this thing and like people are craving this nostalgia. Exactly. They crave nostalgia. So if we can give them a piece of that and tie it into their favorite sport, like it kills. The one thing that's going to happen is some of these companies are going to crack down on copyrights, depending on how the internet goes. But we've spoken to our legal department a few times about using GIFs, and it's a very gray area. But
yeah, the QMJHL we can't use GIF. Like if we don't, you know, have like permission, we can't use.
And you'd need like consent from like the director of the movie and all the actors that appear in the scene, and which you're not going to get for a 5-second GIF. No one's cracking down on that yet, but if it happens, that completely changes a lot of teams. A lot of social strategy goes out the window when people aren't allowed to use reaction GIFs.
I could just picture you at your computer, Pat, getting an email that basically says kind of like, okay, like LA Kings can't, you know, use GIFs that much anymore or something. You kind of just closing your laptop and just kind of going like, damn. Oh my
but I think I think what we've been, you know, if we look at what we've done for like the last 2 seasons, is we've gotten kind of away from that stuff because, like I said, if you look at our account or the Tampa Bay Lightning or the Coyotes or whatever, they all just use the same GIFs from The Office and Parks and Rec and Step Brothers and, you know, Family Guy. It's the same crap over and over.
But the thing is, what you mentioned, right? Maybe they won't get other references.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's one of the things. So you'd hope, right, Dave, if someone puts like a Mighty Ducks tweet, like you'd hope someone would get that reference because maybe they wouldn't.
And I do that a lot, like of obscure movies from my childhood, like Three Ninjas or Heavyweights or like
Three Ninjas.
We're all around the same age, like you guys get it.
Oh, Fester, where is Fester?
So we make a few especially slow motion. They're like slow it down, slow it down, slow it. Like we do that, and there's always like 5 people that are like, oh, like this is incredible. But most people don't get it.
But then you gotta make a tweet afterwards when someone gets a penalty, like, ooh, somebody got a ticket.
The radical salsa. It's those movies are incredible. But
Dave, do you remember that movie?
The Three Ninjas?
Yeah.
Is that the wax on, wax off?
No. That's
Rocky Colton Tum Tum.
Yeah, it's a classic.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, the kid with the licorice in his mouth.
Charles, that's like a classic movie.
Yeah. Like,
of course.
At our place, we were three boys. Like I'm the oldest, and I have 2 younger brothers. So we were like, Okay, that's it. Like, we're the three ninjas.
Oh my god!
So
No,
like
I
when you
never-
can make that reference and people connect, even if like 3 people connect with it, it's like, yes, like that's so much better than posting like a stupid Family Guy gif that 1,000 people think is moderately funny. I think.
Hey, you've got us 3 on board.
Yeah, exactly. We just need to have like a 3 ninjas night and just do everything 3 ninjas.
Man, I just want to talk about Three Ninjas for the rest of the broadcast. Like,
This might launch our new 3 ninjas podcast that we.
Man, when they're putting like they're trying to get the bad guys, right? So like they have Tom bringing like a drink out to them that's gonna go make them go to the bathroom.
The laxative.
Yeah, the laxative. Yeah. So you just see him, he's just like, this stuff is good. And my sister and I just always like reference that stuff. I never went to there's like heavyweights. You guys, do you remember the movie Heavyweights?
Well, I mentioned Heavyweights is my favorite movie of all time.
Okay,
And so
I'm feeling skinny, Tony.
yeah, I mean, I even started. I haven't finished it, but I was posting 15 seconds of Heavyweights on Instagram, like the whole movie. I'm through about like 20 minutes, but it takes a long time at 15 seconds.
You also mentioned, are you afraid of the dark? My sister and you, man, you guys get along so well because I'm pretty sure Are You Afraid of the Dark is like our favorite show, and Heavyweights their favorite movie.
Great movie.
So it's like, oh my god, that's.
But it's like those moments, yeah, like this stuff is good, and it's like, my brother does that.
It's on YouTube also. Someone put it on YouTube. I'm going to watch it after this.
Like every meal that my brother and I have together, one of us will say, this stuff is good. They're just, I don't know, it's iconic. And so those are the best things. And like we talk a lot about like music that's obscure music, and there'll be like 6 fans that really get it. And they like, that's like a connection with us that is way beyond like they just like us. So we try to do that stuff a lot. And then, it just keeps me entertained rather than, this is my 5th season with the Kings, and 82 we play about 100 games a year. Like it gets boring. We gotta play Phoenix on a Sunday afternoon again, and it's just like it's hard to like be creative. So that's when you really kind of reach into that hole of like, okay, I just want to make something that is gonna make me laugh, and then hopefully someone like laughs along with me.
Those tweets are the best though. When you post something and you're just cracking up.
Oh, it's the best.
Your tweet's the best.
And it's always the stuff that I think is the funniest that no one else thinks is funny. Like, and like my friend or my brother will be like, "Oh, this was hilarious," but like it won't do well. And then it's like stupid stuff. Like to be perfectly honest with you, like the "You're welcome" tweet or like some of the stuff that's like people write about us are stuff that we're just like, "Oh, this might be funny," and then it ends up going, it's like viral videos. No one makes a viral video knowing how big it's going to be. So I got to keep myself entertained all, day after day.
You should try to do one game where it's kind of like a slower game when like you should reply to everyone using Heavyweights quotes.
I can do that.
So if someone chirps you write like, ha ha ha, comedian.
Yeah.
I like comedians. You know what I mean? Like
I can do
you write something like that. Okay, could you please do that? Like that would pick a game, email me and let me know because I will love that.
There's one fan that we have who's also a huge Heavyweights fan, so he and I just tweet quotes back at each other. And being in LA, a lot of celebrities do respond to our account because we're verified and like we'll show up in DMs and stuff. So we tweeted at Paul Feig and we were like, "Hey man, like let's have a Heavyweights appreciation night." And he was like, "Yes, absolutely, let's do it." And we were just like, at that point, obviously, like our sponsorship team would never let us do that. But at least on Twitter, we could probably figure out something that's kind of fun.
Oh man, and Jerry from Heavyweights guest starred for like 2 seconds on the first episode of Suits.
All right.
He's one of like the candidates, and Don tells him go away.
I met Pat once.
Oh really?
The counselor. I met him at a Bruce Springsteen concert. That was we're just looking good, Pat. And he like looked at us like, "Are you guys serious?" We're like, "Yeah, we're huge fans of Heavyweights. It's our favorite movie." I don't think that happens to him that often.
Yeah. I think before we lose our minds over Three Ninjas and Heavyweights, we'll wrap up this episode of PopTernative. Closing remarks from everyone. That's what we usually do. So, Dave, anything going on that you want us to know about? Any
Obviously,
remarks?
just stay tuned to those Hockey Canada platforms. We got plenty of events coming up. We got the Women's Four Nations Cup that's just about to kick off. World Juniors isn't in Canada this year; it's in Finland, but it'll be back next year in Montreal and Toronto again. So stay tuned for that one. And other than that, I mean, thanks for having me on board for this episode.
No problem, Charles. What about you?
In 2 weekends, the weekend of Halloween, there is our first World Cup in Montreal, and then the weekend after, it's our World Cup in Toronto. So first year World Cup in the season at home in Canada, so it will be a lot of fun. And if you're in the area, come see us, and it's going to be a great show.
And good luck with that too.
Thanks.
Hope you win. Pat,
Pressure.
what are you?
Yeah, we are 5 games into the season. We just won 2, so things are looking much better than they did after the first 3. Follow us at LA Kings. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on. So yeah, this has been PopTernative. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Charles. Another thing too, Charles. South Korea in a couple of years, everyone's gonna be watching. So
I'll see you in South Korea. I'll be there this year. I'll be there this time.
Yeah. Are you actually gonna be there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, it'll be great.
Awesome then.
Cool. Yeah, you guys should take a selfie.
I'll be like
hashtag PopTernative.
I don't know if I'll make it to the athletes' village, but I'll be in the media tent or whatever, wherever they put me.
I still need to qualify myself, so
yeah, best of luck.
Yeah, best of luck with the qualifications too. But yeah, this has been PopTernative. Thank you for tuning in. Follow us on Twitter at PopTernative. If you missed this episode or other previous episodes, you can go and see replays on our YouTube and SoundCloud pages.
Thank you for tuning in to PopTernative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of PopTernative on YouTube. Be sure to like PopTernative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.